mainnet is upon us very, very soon. And I thought I want to share a bit of what we've been working on and give you a bit of an update on how we're tracking and some of the achievements we've made so far. And also would love to keep working with you folks as we build towards, the next chapter of Sui. So I always start off to try and always, as a product person, to explain like the mission and what we're trying to achieve. Our mission is to basically create the foundation for decentralized web. The ultimate goal is to make safe ownership and cheap ownership and really digital ownership something that everybody can get access to. And we tried to do that at Facebook, as some of you know very well, to some failure. But I believe that was all for the good. I think now we're at the position where we could do this without being under an umbrella of a massive organization, but have the same level of skill, the same level of expertise under the same roof to build a truly remarkable piece of technology that is going to really power and change how we view finance, how we view commerce, and how we view gaming in the future. I want to talk about the few things I want to talk about. Dev, we're now on 1.0 of our dev experience, then go through what we're doing from now to mainnet, talk about like the 2023 roadmap, because of course after mainnet you still need to have a roadmap and keep on building and improving. And finally, some of the things we want to share with you before mainnet. I'll leak a bit of a few things today. Hopefully we don't all tweet about it, but I trust you. A bit about me. My name is Adeniyi Abiodun. I'm the Chief Product Officer of Mysten Labs and one of the co-founders. I've been in crypto since 2011. Started building the Bitcoin space very early, built my first company in 2012, the latter part of 2012. Sold that, got involved. Once I fully exited, I built a big data blockchain company. Then I launched blockchain for Oracle and did the same at VMware before I went over to Facebook to try and do the same thing and launching a blockchain for payments. And really, really honored to have a great team that we have all across the board, whether it's in our research team, whether it's our events team, whether it's our marketing team, our DevRel team. We feel that we're working with some of the best people in the world, and we also feel we have the best community in the crypto space right now. So really happy to have you all here. Today, Mysten has about 120 employees, full of researchers, engineers. It's a lot of disciplines, including legal. And in the foundation, the goal of the foundation is really to focus on the growth of Sui. As you know, Mysten and Foundation, they're two different entities. Our goal at the beginning was always to have decentralization at the forefront of what we do. So even before mainnet, we have a fully independent foundation. We'll be announcing the CEO of the foundation sometime this week, and you'll get to spend some time and meet him as well. And then moving forward from there, Mysten will continue to be a core contributor to the Sui protocol, as so with others. And the foundation will work on continually growing the ecosystem and running events and building connections between all the builders in our ecosystem. That's the ultimate plan. Sui DevNet, DevX 1.0. As you are well aware, a lot of the stuff you've been working on over the last 4 to 6 months broke overnight with our recent release. All I can say is sorry, but it's worth it, right? In the sense that we've taken a lot of the feedback that you've been giving us around the development experience, and there are a lot of things that we could have done a lot better. And rather than put you through the pains of multiple months of breakage, we just thought, let's just hold up all the changes in one go, break it all in one go, and give you an opportunity to actually get back into the swing of things. And I think we still feel it's the right decision, but I think ultimately what we've ended up is a core set of features and a core set of primitives that really is going to make Sui the most powerful blockchain for you to build your applications. We think we're really emphasizing innovation. I want to talk through some of those innovations today. And we think these innovations will only enable you to build better apps that cater to consumers at a much larger scale than you really have been afforded to with traditional blockchains. First thing, programmable transaction blocks. Now, I know a lot of you have been using already with a lot of power. It's the idea that you can, rather than having a single transaction submitted once at a time, you can create basically a whole bunch of transactions that are really linked to one another, but do that at a very large scale. And it means you can now create composability at a level that wasn't afforded to you previously. If you wanted to build a flash loan bot, you don't need a separate module to manage the algorithm for you. You could do that completely off-chain and construct your contract in a way where you can build a flash loan bot without the need of separate modules. We also think you could use that for batch payments and batch transactions. So if you're a financial institution, you want to do 50,000 transactions in one go, put it into a batch and spin it through the network, and network would churn it up and execute them in parallel for you. These are the kind of features we think is just going to make it amenable for people to build really interesting applications at a scale that wasn't afforded to them before as well. Separate sponsored transactions. One thing we've always made a point of is it's important that in this next crypto cycle that we go through, that we bring in a lot more people into the ecosystem. We shouldn't just be focused on use cases that is really edifying, nothing more than gambling. But how do we build an ecosystem where people can build apps that really touch the forefront of what people try and do in Web2? For example, as a user, if I want to play a game, saying that I should go and download MetaMask and then go back and buy a token and then transfer the token and then purchasing a utility token before I can do something, it's already going to kill your user acquisition. It's a dead on arrival kind of proposition. So what sponsored transactions allows you to do is onboard people into the Sui ecosystem where gas is paid for by a separate account. So as a user, I'm using the blockchain as normal. I am completely unaware of what gas means, and the blockchain just works. We think that's going to empower the opportunity to actually onboard millions and millions of people into Web3 that previously wasn't possible to do before. Imagine if you want to do a free mint, and you want to completely remove the essence of gas. That's possible with sponsored transactions. In addition, you can use that sponsored transactions as a gas saving mechanism, because with Sui, if you batch 10 transactions or you do one transaction, it costs the same. Cheap on-chain storage. We've heard it many times that, people, what are you buying when you're buying an NFT or when you're buying an asset in traditional blockchains? You're really buying a hash to an ownership record, where the actual asset is stored off-chain in some other repository, whether it's AWS or GCP. On Sui, we don't think it should be like that. We actually give you the ability to store your assets directly onto the chain. So I'll give you an example. Let's say today it costs you $3 per megabyte to store on Sui. Just to give you an example of where we're going with this. Today I store 1 megabyte file on Sui, and that is my NFT, it's my PFP. That NFT, I pay $5 for it, okay? But in 5 years' time, Sui's price is considerably higher at the time I paid for my storage. What happens is, if the floor price of my NFT goes down, but the value of storage, the amount of Sui locked up in the storage fund is higher, you can liquidate that NFT, or you could burn that NFT and receive your storage fund tokens back. So we incentivize you to destroy storage when it's no longer valuable. So anytime you pay for storage on Sui, it's storage paid for forever until you decide to destroy that asset. So there's always an opportunity for you to delete assets that are no longer valuable to you anymore. But at the same time, it gives developers much greater flexibility and creativity over what they can represent fully on-chain in a dynamic way that wasn't possible before. Sui will have ability to store terabytes and terabytes of data. So unlike a traditional blockchain where storage is very, very expensive, Sui's plan is to be orders of magnitude cheaper than storing on a traditional blockchain, but also probably the cheapest blockchain to store data on. Dynamic fields, you've probably been using it since version 1 of DevNet. We've gone a bit further with that and in adding additional features there. But ultimately, the composability elements is just giving you a lot more freedom around how you build your contracts, how you enable data elements to be represented, how you basically expand storage over time, and how you really even can think about distributing load in terms of parallelization as well. That is a feature that was available from very early on, and we've continually made improvements in performance around that as well. Zero knowledge proofs. As you know, Sui, our goal, we don't believe zero knowledge proof is great for scalability. We think it's crap scalability, to be honest. It's great for privacy. It's great for private computations. So on Sui, we're already supporting zero knowledge proofs on Sui. You can actually do hidden balances today. So I can send you $50 and I can hide the balance from you. You can also do zero knowledge verification of identities. It already works on Sui today. We also add zero knowledge key signing. So if you want to have a different key signing mechanism that uses zero knowledge circuit, you could do that directly on Sui already today. On-chain randomness. As you know, gaming is a big investment for us as a company. The 3 pillars we care about, I always make the point, is gaming, finance, and digital commerce. We have on-chain randomness on Sui. So if you want to do a game that needs a random beacon, it's already available to you using the core primitives on the chain directly today. Crypto agility. What we mean by that is the ability to have multiple key signing mechanisms on chain rather than trusting one DSA pair. We have support for even the keys that your iPhone uses as well. So if you want to use Face ID to sign transactions, We already support that out the gate. If you want to use your Android biometrics to sign transactions on Sui, you could do that out the gate. And we've added the ability for you to do MOVEN multi-factor authentication or MOVEN multi-sig on Sui already. So you can basically have one signature could be your iPhone, another signature could be your HSM device, another could be your Google account, and more on that a bit later. Private NFTs. Would like to talk a bit about that probably as a separate thing in itself, but those are coming soon. It's the idea that if I don't own the NFT, I cannot see the image. I cannot see the asset. So once the asset's been transferred to someone else, I can no longer see that image anymore. One, the image is on Sui, so it's encrypted directly on Sui. Only the owner of the asset can encrypt that image, unencrypt that image, and that asset, as it dynamically changes over time as well, it brings a different element to asset ownership that we think blockchain should really be giving users today. Bit of water break. So road to mainnet. As you know, our goal is to be in mainnet Q2 2023. As you've been seeing the barrage of information online, lots are happening. You could tell it's very, very close. I don't want to give away a date, but some of you already know, but share with who you know. But ultimately, we are running as fast as we can towards mainnet. We think there's a big opportunity now as we've gathered a really strong developer community that's been working very, very hard over the last 6 to 8 months with us. They've built some amazing applications that we can't wait for them to let loose and start to onboard a new wave of consumers to Web3. So wave one was about validators. It's really focused around, can we run a network in a decentralized scheme and do that without Mysten Labs running its own network? We validated that. Wave two was about tokenomics. Can we have a tokenomics model that gives you stable price independently of volatility of Sui prices, even independently of the amount of traffic that hits the network? We feel we verified that. Sui price will stay flat on a dollar basis and can be rebalanced per epoch, independently of the Sui price and independently of the traffic on the network, which we think is a game changer for any blockchain. And what does that mean? It means today, if it costs you $1 for a transaction, well, it's a bit high. If it's a cent for a transaction today, next week it will be a cent for a transaction as well. Wave three is about builders. And this is the wave we're in right now, where we almost really kicked you on the heels by breaking the changes, but we're making it. It's really about enabling you to build based on our DevX Experience 1.0, all the cool, wonderful features you want to build into your applications. And mainnet is next. There's no other wave. We were going to do multiple waves, but we feel we're at the maturity level now where the network has been pretty stable. We have some work to do on the full nodes and indexer side, but mostly the distributed decentralized network has been really stable and highly performant. 2023 roadmap. As you know, the work we have to do moving forward is going to be on a scalability side. As you know, Sui doesn't have a boundary to TPS, which sounds completely ridiculous, but if you think about it, it makes sense. How does Google work? How does Facebook work? How do they continually have infrastructure that takes on more and more load? Well, they horizontally scale. The more machines you put at a problem, the higher your ability to deal with the capacity. So Sui, right now, we're operating under one worker. It will be to add the second worker and then enable a dynamic scaling solution for validators. So as the throughput goes through the roof, validators can be incentivized to add more workers to their existing validator set to increase the throughput of the network. Second, it will be on the tokenomics, continually working on the work that we're doing around MEV, and even storage fund optimizations as well that are going to be done. And finally, the Move Prover. I know there's some people in here who have been pinging me about wanting to work with Mysten Labs and the Move Prover. Come along, we'd love to work with you. I think it's a great opportunity to do something for the community to accelerate the work people are doing on audit as well. Now, before mainnet, we're going to release our Sui benchmark performance numbers. And I'm going to tell you, it's a really big number. We haven't done as much testing as we would have liked so far on the testnet, but we threw something on there where basically easily doing 10,000 TPS, no problem. I think the final numbers that we'll release for testnet would be six figures in the TPS boundary. So it's by far the fastest blockchain that's ever been created. And it's something that you can actually build apps. And one thing I want to make the point is I actually personally think TPS is a really horrible benchmark. It doesn't matter really in reality. It's what does it mean, right? If you think about it for electric cars, right? If I have a car and it could do 100 miles, and I have to put in a heavier battery each time to get even more range. That's called dumb range. And I think blockchain's that notion of that, where most of the TPS is really dumb TPS, right? What can I do with that throughput that you give to me? And our goal is to enable you to have really smart TPS, namely the fact that you now have programmable transaction blocks. You could do a lot more in a Sui transaction that you can do in another competing blockchain transaction. So one transaction means a lot more than just looking at one number. And we think that metric will have it there. It's there. It's a great validity metric, and it's going to be a high number. It's going to be more performant than others. But what we care about more than anything is what you build as users as a result of that. So our throughput numbers are going to be very high, and they're going to be sustainable numbers that you can build apps and trust on significantly as well. And we touched on tokenomics. We believe we have a tokenomics model that is highly scalable, that actually enables consumers to have confidence that the fees today and the fees tomorrow are effectively the same. And the reason why that matters is if I run an application on Google, the bill doesn't really change depending on the amount of apps that Google is running. Google just buys more hardware and deals with it, and I end up having the same bill depending on the amount of usage that I have. And we think blockchains should operate the same way. I can't build a game today and it costs $1 for my people to play the game, and in 5 days' time it 10x's, as people have seen before. Those unit economics completely break down for games or any kind of other commerce apps. So we've really owned in on when we built Sui, that we built the tokenomics into the scalability model, into the storage model. Everything is part of part of one unit. And we're happy today to say that we have full confidence that Sui will have a very stable gas price moving forward, dollar-wise, right? We also were able to show that as you added more workers to the network, that you can also sustain the supply and demand. Throughput is a question of supply and demand. All blockchains have a cap of TPS. And as a result, the way to control that is continually increase the gas price. So only the highest bidders basically effectively can process transactions. Sui, we don't believe in that model. We think what you want is always have a constant price, but what you do when you have more demand and supply is you throw more workers, you throw more machines at a problem, and you keep the price relatively flat. And we feel we're going to mainnet with a tokenomics model that would only get better over time, but ultimately will give consumers the flexibility, or even app developers flexibility, to know that their apps will have the same gas prices on a regular basis as well. That's all I had for you today. Hopefully I ran through that quickly enough. I had 12 more minutes, so thank you very much. Sure, go ahead. Don't ask me when token. Or airdrop.
It's a big question. Mechanism that the gas fee changes oppositely to the token price. I'm wondering why how this mechanism works specifically. If you could clarify. That.
Yeah. The way it works is we effectively turn. Our game theory is that we force validators to push price to the lowest common price possible. Basically, as close to the cost as possible, and it's competitive. So the way Sui reference gas price works is every epoch, every validator will make a bid to what they think the gas price should be, right? So if you bid very, very high, the people who bid lower than you, if people are submitting transactions at that fee, you'll get a ridiculously lower share of the rewards for that epoch. So you end up losing. So if you bid too high, you end up losing. If you bid too low, it's below your cost. So ultimately, the game theory is to get validators to bid as close to their cost as possible, keeping prices low. And it's normally their cost is in dollars, right? Ultimately, they're all trying to compete based on what is my cost of compute, what is my cost of data, what is the ultimate cost for running my operation, and then they bid accordingly. And that's done on an epoch by epoch basis. So even if the throughput of the network goes through the roof and they want to charge higher, they're better off throwing more workers at it and keeping the price low to ensure they can continually earn a regular fee from staking. If I am staking at a validator and I'm losing money because they're constantly setting high prices, I'm going to take my stake to a validator that's actually making the right amount of money and is bidding on a reasonable basis. Sure thing.
So I highly agree with your point that TPS is a dumb number, and I wonder if you can tell us more about like how does Sui handle things like concurrency and also like the network topology, so that maybe like if a block leader fails, how resilient is the network going to be, and will it crash like basically like Solana did like last year or so?
Yeah, good question. I mean, look, I can't give you all the technical details. We have a full like 30, 40 page white paper on that. But what I can tell you is what makes Sui fast is not just the fact that we have, you know, a different consensus model, Narwhal and Tusk. It's not the fact that we have a storage model. It's not that we have an object model, right? It's all those things put together. One, the fact that we have an object model means that we are able to statically analyze whether something has a dependency or doesn't. Solana, Aptos, all these other blockchains generally do not have that notion, right? So Solana on one hand, you have to name the addresses you're going to touch ahead of time. With Aptos, you don't have that ability to do that, right? So with Sui, without spending any computing resources at all, I know for a fact that whether something has a contention and doesn't. And if it doesn't have a contention, like a single writer object, I can spin it to any number of CPUs. And the more CPUs I have, the more things I can do in parallel. Now, for shared objects, for example, if you're dealing with a DEX, the fact that one DEX is taking 1,000 TPS should not take down the entire network, right? So one DEX can be operating at 2,000 TPS and the other DEX is unaffected because that DEX is seen as one concurrent unit, whereas the rest of the other elements are seen as separate concurrent units. That is very different from other blockchains where everything is highly merkleized and it's hard to make difference between one object, one asset versus another asset as well. So the object model gives us a lot of flexibility in allowing us to parallelize. The consensus model gives us the high bandwidth and the high throughput we need to reach parallel agreement. And the fact that we have an owner object model versus a shared object model gives us additional flexibility. Namely, we have very low latency time to finality for Sui for a single writer. And we're going to release papers as well to document that we also have very low finality numbers for shared objects too. They're both sub-second is the way to go.
One last question.
Yeah. I want to hear more about private NFTs, if it's possible, or if not, when can we hear more about them? Because I find private NFTs.
So the person I actually think will do this the most amount of justice is Kostas Georgios. Kostas ran crypto for Facebook for quite a while, and he's our chief cryptographer. So the idea behind that, I've always made the point that, look, you know, I'm a big fan of NFTs, right? But I just think there needs to be more to it than just meets the eye, right? It needs to be useful, it needs to be fun, it needs to be interesting. But I also think there's an element of like user behavior that comes along with it. And I think the idea that I own something, that it could be mine and it could be an element of that NFT that only I can interact with, and another that I'm willing to share with the public, I think that opens up the door to creativity. So it's a cryptographic scheme for sure, using Sui's native object model that effectively hides away the content of that NFT from non-owners versus owners. It's not too dissimilar to what we're doing with blinding, where I can send you 50 Sui and, well, I'll say I can send you 50 USDC and I'll hide the balance from the entire world, but only you and I know the balance amount, right? So it's some element of black magic, but I think the best way to explain it would be our paper with Kostas. I don't know if you had a chat with him, but I think you should meet him.
Okay.
We still have time. Yes. Hey.
I wanted to take some photos. So is that okay? But I learned so much. Okay. We'll do one more question.
I swear it's a real question. All right. I don't know how else to put this, so I guess I'll just come out and say it. How does it feel to be so awesome?
How does it feel to be Akasha is a question I should be asking, actually. You know, I don't know how to answer that question.
All right, so I just want to let you guys know, Danny woke up at like 4 a.m. and taking calls all day, and we still got to hear such an awesome keynote speech. So I want everyone to give the loudest resounding applause that you can ever think of. Give it.